If the mine permit goes through very quickly, it wouldn't have to abide by those new restrictions. But the key point is, currently what the company and what Wisconsin State, this new proposed law wants to do is simply change the allowable amount of sulfide drainage. Currently it's 10 milligrams per liter, and they want to double that or triple that or even up it by 10 times. So in other words, rather than using existing but expensive technology to deal with the problem, they want to legally define it away. But unfortunately, wild rice doesn't necessarily listen to these legal arguments. So, there are a host of other taconite mines that we can look to. There are significant mercury issues in all of these mines. It's not mercury that gets directly into the water. It's mercury that is released into the atmosphere from the very initial stage of processing. There are technologies that, to scrub it out, to remove much of it, but then you have to deal with it. But the key point right now is those technologies aren't required. The EPA has found that taconite companies have to figure out a way to deal with that. But that's not in effect yet. They're talking about it. And the other key point is that mercury doesn't just stay in the atmosphere. Of course, it gets into the water. So the tailings basins for existing taconite mines do have mercury in them. There are acid drainage issues, as I mentioned, really significant wild rice issues. So what the chair of Duluth Metals Limited, which is a proposal for an enormous new mine on Minnesota's North Shore, has said, quote, historical problems have no bearing on or relevance to new mines that his firm is planning to develop in Minnesota. This is a completely different era than what happened in the 60s, said Dundas. Our operation will be state-of-the-art and will be totally planned and designed to absolutely minimize every environmental issue, end quote. And that sounds reassuring, but it's a little disturbing for us who have some historical experience, because if that were true, why at the same time are they doing their best to undermine existing environmental regulations? In other words, if they're going to abide by them, why do they first need to essentially get rid of them and write these new laws that don't seem very protective? So I want to end with 3 key points. The first key point is that we all know that what happens locally doesn't stay local. What happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. What happens in the Bad River doesn't stay in the Bad River. This is an image not of the Bad River, but of the Brule River, and this is after heavy rainfall. And so you can see there's a lot of red clay moving into the watershed and affecting the fisheries there. We live in a world of interconnections, and the decisions we make about our local lakes, about our local watersheds, have repercussions for our own lives, for the lives within our watershed, but also they have global repercussions as well. It's really important that we make decisions that protect not just ourselves, but the future and the entire set of interconnections we exist within. The second key point, and I can't state this over and over again, is right now in Wisconsin we keep hearing, well, we need jobs so we can just sacrifice the environment. But if we know anything from the history of the North, is that economic health ultimately depends on environmental health. You don't get an economically healthy community by sacrificing the environment. It just doesn't work that way. We see things happening now in Appalachia with mountaintop removal mining. There was a study that was just published a week ago showing much higher rates of birth defects in communities near these mountaintop removal mines. And so that's not a healthy future, even if the jobs are there. It's not a trade-off people should have to make. And so this idea that we can somehow sacrifice the environmental health of the Bad River Band or of Lake Superior for the economic health of people who want the jobs, it just doesn't work that way. That's not the way economic systems work or ecosystems work. And the final key point, and this is from the vision statement of the Binational Forum, is that ultimately water is life. We can't drink money. The quality of water determines the quality of life, and if we want to have a sustainable future in this watershed, we need to make sure that first and foremost we find ways to protect the water. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer questions. I just spent 3 days lobbying down in Madison with all these people, so I'm also happy to talk to you about what Scott Walker's staff told me, and all these other people. It's kind of fun. Well, actually, it's not fun. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. Thanks very much.